Alright, hello everyone. Yeah, some of you that might have seen my previous video know that I was busy with a Cobra-Assassin. Conclusion of that is the poison-based route is not really as great as I thought it would be. I would say hit-based with just elemental damage is still better for that skill, but I know Arrow has been done quite a few iterations of that, so I figured to give up on that build and start working on my endgame build. My endgame build turned out to be a Lightning Strike Trickster. I know quite a few people have already done this, but I just wanted to share my take and my views on this build. I think I might have done some things a bit differently than other people. Might have made some other decisions there, especially focusing very much on getting this as tanky as possible, just to never die in tier 17s again and just feel very comfortable. So as always, let me just get started with the skill tree, starting from the bottom left. So we are going block-based route with a Aegis Aurora. So we are running Versatile Combatant to get that spell block up there. Take some of the shield nodes. Then of course the blood immunity, very important. We take Iron Reflexes. We do this so that we can transform our evasion rating into armor. So that we get more energy shield back from our Aegis, some more shield nodes as well, get that spell block up there. Then we have a small cluster here with Feed the Fury and the Veteran Defender. Veteran Defender quite useful because we are very starved for elemental resistances, and Feed the Fury of course, as we are always leeching as a Trickster. Then we have to split personalities with Intelligence, Maximum Energy Shield. I think this is very common, right, in Chaos Inoculation builds. So yeah, we are also running that. Here we have the Leader of the Pack wheel. This is for our mana reservation efficiency and aura effect. So previously, what I see a lot of people do is take this charisma wheel. It does give you the benefit of being able to easily access forces of nature right here. But I think it is, it's quite some extra passive points, and this can reach almost the same level combined with the mana mastery. So that's why I opted to go for Leader of the Pack here. Precise technique, right? More attack damage if accuracy rating is higher than max life. Well, we're 1 life, so that shouldn't be too hard for us. Then also, as you can see, I do have some tattoos here. These are some spell suppression tattoos to just cap out my spell suppression. They're definitely not mandatory, but they do save me some passive points on the tree. Then also some cold resistance tattoos. The elemental wheel here. So previously, like I said, you would take Force of Nature, but we really want that extra exposure. So we take the elemental wheel here and apply the exposure right here. Then the Light of Meaning Prismatic Jewel. So that gives 3% energy shield for every passive skill in the radius. Before making the swap to Mage Blood, or a good spell suppression body, you are probably a bit short on spell suppression, so you would probably pass down here instead of going this route, which is perfectly understandable, right? And then you get this spell suppression here, get some spell suppression here, you can get some extra block and melee strike range here, so you get all these nodes that are within the range of the Light of Meaning, which is very nice. Gets you a bit more value. Probably I should maybe move this up somewhere else. I'm not sure if there's a better spot, but yeah, I've kept it here for now. Then this mana mastery makes the attack cost a little less, but most importantly gets you that extra mana reservation efficiency. We have the more spell suppression and the extra projectile. So usually you would have non-Vile Strike skills target 1 additional nearby enemy here, but since I have 2 additional nearby enemies on my gloves by now, I felt like I could drop this, and I was really point starved. This build is pretty point starved, I would say. Then we have the Pierce. I would say this is especially important once you make the switch to Nimis. Before you're returning, if you have returning projectile support, these returning projectiles always pierce. That is not the case for Nimis, right? So we do need that extra pierce effect somewhere on the tree, which is why we take this. You can take the projectile speed mastery, can feel nice for clearing, but like I said before, we are very point starved, so I did not have the space for that. You want at least 1 field of fight to get that extra mana leech. Just 1 is more than enough and you are sustained for the rest of your life, but making sure that you have at least 1 in your clusters is very important. And then a prodigious defense to get that extra spell block and just get me up to that 65%. Currently I'm sitting at exactly 65. and then 68. As you can see, quite overcapped on the attack block, but with the notable right here, right? First stock combatant, that will give me 2% spell block per 1% overcap attack block, hence we are so overcapped. Then with that we run Storm Shroud for our ailment immunity. We are running a Mage Blood with the Shock Flask, so that's a very easy ailment immunity right there. Could go for an Ancestral Vision since we are also going for Suppression Cap, and then get some ailment avoidance on the boots pretty easily. Then Watcher's Eye, most importantly the attack damage while affected by precision. You probably want to pair this with a attack speed while affected by precision. But yeah, I did not have the currency to do that anymore after I did some other crafts, which I'll get to later. Then the Mark Mastery. So I have marked enemies cannot regenerate life, and this is something I do not see a lot of people take. I don't think it's really necessary with the damage levels that we are at right now, but the reason I took this is because I was running some Valdos maps, and there's Maven following you around every now and then, and she and also with the regular T17 maps, and yeah, if you start healing the enemies, it gets pretty annoying pretty fast. So I just figured let's do that. Another option that a lot of people do run is the 10% chance to gain a frenzy charge when you hit a marked enemy. But yeah, I've opted to not run any frenzy charge at all. That does hurt our damage a little bit, but it does mean that we can take all the altars, all the blue altars without thinking about it. Because if we did not, then we would get the less defense per frenzy charge, and you know, less defense is less energy shield is less damage, and just really destroy your own build with taking those frenzy charges then. Yeah, Leech Mastery, instant leech. Reason for that is that we with this we can bypass the less recovery from leech on the tier 17 maps. So it's another modifier we can just ignore and move on, because we do plenty of damage, and that 10% of instant leech is more than enough to sustain us. Lethal Pride, most important part of this one is that you have rage on melee hits, preferably at least 2, so right here and here. And then every double damage that you can get is a nice bonus. Power charge for the Anathema, so we can up our curse limit by 1, so we can get up to 4 curses. Resourcefulness for that extra suppression, and max energy shield, very nice note. I don't see many people take this, but I think it's a bit underrated, especially since you do have that increased energy shield, and it is within the radius of your Lethal Pride, so it can be very useful to just cap out. Arcing Blows for the extra rage on melee hit, of course, but also to get that lightning pen in. Not the most cost efficient wheel, but I think it's still around 4% full damage per point, so it's still quite good, I would say. 1% increased evasion rating per 5 intelligence as well on the evasion energy shield mastery there. Pretty important, right? We are stacking quite some intelligence, currently sitting at 735, so that's quite a lot of extra evasion that we can then convert to armor, which we can then which then helps us with our aegis and physical mitigation. Just your basic energy shield nodes and increased energy shield from helmets, so just get more ES in, nothing special there. Chaos Inoculation kind of speaks for itself, right? Then another cluster, this time with Prodigious Defense again to get that extra last bit of spell block, and Feed the Fury to get that increased attack speed while leeching, since we are always leeching. Forbidden Flame and Flash, nice for Spellbreaker, I'll get to that in a bit. Then we have our int wheel together with 5 int per mastery, since we are locating as many masteries as possible with Polymath. And then Wicked Ward, since we are running Spellbreaker, so we are recharging energy shield on suppression. So to keep that recharge going as well, we have Wicked Ward. So as for the ascendancies, Polymath, I would say pretty much a no-brainer for any trickster. Almost, it's just a very nice amount of more damage per mastery, right? So it's just a huge damage increase. One step ahead, not exactly mandatory, but I ran 1 or 2 tier 17s without it when trying to switch to Spellbreaker before I had the Flame and Flash, and I instantly switched back. It feels so much better with especially that you can ignore many mechanics like petrification statues, any of the delirium debuff, stuff like that, right? You will miss it a lot if you don't use it, so I would definitely recommend using this if you do plan on running tier 17s. which is sort of what this build is made for, right? Escape Artist, more energy shield and more evasion rating for energy shield and evasion rating on your helmet and body. So yeah, just more energy shield, get more evasion rating, get more armor, get more restore from your ages, get more physical reduction, just a lot of tankiness, and with the extra energy shield also quite a lot of extra damage. And then lastly, Soul Drinker, which allows us to leech a lot of energy shield and always be able to sustain that leech. Even if we do have max energy shield, we keep on leeching, keep the leeching effect, which helps us with our support gems as well as these feed the Fury nodes that I showed earlier. I think that's it for the skill tree. Yeah, so like I also quickly, like I mentioned, the Wicked Ward here is just if you do have Spellbreaker, right, so that you have that 50% chance for energy shield recharge to start when you suppress spell damage. If you do not have that Forbidden Flame and Flash combo, you would just not take Wicked Ward, and instead you probably take Ghost Reaver and focus completely on the leech route instead. But I like having a source of both, especially if I have reduced recovery from leech. It's just a nice balance, and it just allows you to cross out one more modifier on tier 17 maps that you can now run and do not have to reroll for. So that is the skills. As for the items, let's start with the obvious one, Ephemeral Edge, right? Increased lightning damage equal to 20% of the player's maximum energy shield. So yeah, that's the whole reason we're stacking energy shield. Got it with a Resolute Technique Corruption. Ideally, if you have the money, but it's currently like 180 divines, you would have the Resolute Technique and chance to fortify on hit corruption, double corrupt. So that means that you do no longer need it on the body, and you can have extra physical mitigation here. But to be completely honest with you, it doesn't really need it. The build is more than tanky enough, but you know, I guess if you want to push it even further, that would be something to look out for. The Kite Shield, definitely just try to get high rolls on the armor and energy shield. I apparently got the max roll there, and then a decent increased armor energy shield roll. Quality it up and call it a day. Nothing too special there. And then the helmet, so that's where we start in crafting territory, right? So yeah, you just get a leech circlet, so the tier 1 energy shield base, get that with high quality, and just slam it with dense fossils. It's gonna be a repeating pattern for all the gear pieces, just slam with dense fossils. So you would slam it with dense fossils until triple tier 1. Here I settled for tier 5 hybrid energy shield mod. Could have been a bit better. But yeah, it was end of league when I decided, maybe I should recraft this, and by that point I didn't really feel like it anymore. But yeah, triple tier 1 with dense fossils is like a 1 in 1000 or 1 in 1100, something from the top of my head. So it's not that expensive. Let me just quickly check. Dense fossils right now are, well, they are getting a bit more expensive, right? 2 chaos each, 3 chaos each, so not that cheap. And then resonators are probably about the same. So last I checked, I bought 50 of each, 50 resonators, 50 dense fossils for 2 divines. So yeah, it does get a bit expensive, right? Because that means it's 40 divines on average to hit your triple tier 1s. But yeah, then you are on your way to get a really great item, right? So then once you have your triple tier 1s, you use the Eldritch currency to get your bottom rolls right. Yeah, for this what I just went for is try to get a good intelligence roll and then craft on the trigger socketed spells when you focus. This makes it so that my socketed curses are triggered when I hit the focus button like this. And as you can see, all the curses just get applied instantaneously, which is very nice. Then next up, the amulet, nothing special here. Voice of the Storm, right? Lightning damage with non-critical strikes is lucky. We are running a non-crit variant with the Resolute Technique, so that's just gives us a lot of damage, right? Since the roll range of lightning damage is so big, so that's yeah, very good. Don't really have to look at what you want in terms of rolls. I think everything is just fine, whatever the cheapest is, to be honest. And then you can add quality it up. I got some attribute quality because I think, not anymore, but previously my dexterity was too low without it. Because we had so many tattoos, but yeah. Nimis, yeah, very expensive. Not mandatory, but it just feels nice, personally. I would definitely prioritize Mage Blood over Nimis. But yeah, it's still very nice, in my opinion, to have that returning projectiles on here, which allows you to get another support gem in here as well. And also, more of a personal thing, I like to be able to just hold W and not feel like, oh, I'm not aiming right. I just hold W, I turn my brain off and I go, right? Anathema, try to get a percent int corrupt on there. I hit the cannot have bleeding inflicted on you and attack speed on this. Yeah, I figured I'd just keep it, but to be honest, the leech is more than enough to deal with that bleeding. Attack speed is nice though, but yeah, initially I was aiming for 6% in intelligence, but yeah, attack speed is also fine. Yeah, so what this does is curse limit equal to your maximum power charges. By default you have 3, we take one on the 3, so we have 4. So yeah, that's 4 curses that we can run because of that. Then the body. Yeah, so triple T1, bought a 28% body, slammed it with dense fossils until triple tier 1. And then finish it up with Eldritch Currency, hitting the tier 2 spell suppression, and then luckily also some resistances, which I desperately needed, and then finish it with an increased attribute craft. Then on there, increase aura effect and get that melee hits have chance to fortify. Just get that fortifying, get a bit more tankiness there as well. And then of course the 8% increased explicit defense modifier magnitudes, which is from the tempering orb. Or tailoring orb, I think, sorry, from Heist. They are pretty expensive, but this is not the most uncommon one. It's pretty common, I would say, so it's not too bad to hit. Then the gloves. Now these were these cost me 160 divines or something to craft. They got pretty expensive, especially also getting that 2 Val Strike skills. But yeah, let's break it down how to craft these. So basically you start by buying a good quality base. I sell it for 28%, 30 was just a bit too expensive for my taste. And you hit it with dense fossils until you hit tier 1 flat energy shield and tier 1 increased energy shield. And then at that point you would throw a fracturing orb at it and have a 50-50 chance to fracture something that you want. Took me 3 attempts, a bit unlucky, but I managed to sell at least the other rolls for something half decent. So yeah, then you have your fractured prefix. At that point, what you would do is you would slam with essences attack speed on there until you hit your tier 1 intelligence. Then what you would do is get a prefixes cannot be changed and use a veiled orb and hope to unveil the increased attack and cast speed while focused. So that would be your suffixes done if you do so. And then, of course, lastly, what you would need to do is get that increased energy shield. I'm still not completely sure what's better, if it is better to use the Eldritch Currency or if it's used to do a suffixes cannot be changed and then a reforge. I'm not really sure. I think it was about equal when I simulated it, but that depends on the prices, so definitely check for yourself there. And then finish it off with crafting on the increased damage while leeching. Yeah, implicit non-val strike skills for 2 targets. That was cost quite a bit to get that to exquisite, but definitely worth it. Drops another passive point on the tree, and we are very point starved. And then of course lightning exposure, like every other lightning build. Mage Blood, not much to say there. Mage Blood is Mage Blood. Fun story though, I did get this one from a Valdos map that I opened myself. And it was a void map, but yeah, I ran it and I got the Mage Blood, so yeah, makes it that much more special to me, thinking about how much I was sweating when running that void map, because yeah, it was a bit scary of course, but we managed. And then lastly, something I would definitely not recommend you do is try and craft triple synth boots. These pair cost me around 350 divines, definitely not worth it, I would say. But definitely fun to do. I never crafted with synthesis, and I just wanted to do it sometime. So that's where it's like, you know what, implicits from Ether and Exarch are not that great because action speed doesn't work for us. We don't really need the ailment immunity. We don't really need fizz as, so it's a bit meh. So let's just try and make synth boots. So yeah, what we did, we got a good base, right? Then chimera roll it so we can turn it back and try and make it triple synth at the harvest bench. Took us like 30 attempts, so that was a bit more expensive because it's a 1 in 16 or 1 in 17 roughly to get triple synth. Yeah, after that, dense fossil spamming until triple tier 1 once again. Like I said, it's a recurring theme. And then once that was done, finishing the suffixes with getting the prefixes cannot be changed, scour, and then exalt orb until at least tier 2 intelligence is what I settled for. Yeah, and of course re-rolling the synthesis implicits before that. I set it for some suppressed spell damage and increased energy shield. So the suppress helps me free up another passive point. Or in this case actually remove my quartz flask, but I'll get to that in a bit. Yeah, so that's it for the gear. And then indeed for the flasks, we are running Mage Blood, but even without Mage Blood, most of the flasks are applicable, aside from their suffixes. So more armor, and then shock immunity, which provides us ailment immunity, movement speed, and then increased evasion rating. I also PoB'd increased armor, but increased evasion rating did give us a bigger increase there. Since we do have that much evasion rating, that does get converted to armor, and I guess something in the Art of Operations makes increased evasion rating better, I think. Either that or it was cheaper, I must be completely honest, I don't exactly remember. Yeah, then the silver flask, just for the 40% increased damage, and we have some resistances on there. As you can see, we are just barely resistance capped. It's very tight with all the uniques and intelligence, attack speed suffix that we are running. We don't have that much space for resistances. So yeah, definitely that's why I also said get that Mage Blood ASAP, because that will help you a lot. Before this I was running a quartz flask. I do miss the phasing a tiny bit, to be honest, but it's not that bad because everything just dies right now anyway, so it's not that I get stuck in packs anyway. But yeah, since we have the suppression on the boots extra there, we could drop the quartz flask and get a bit more damage in. Then the tincture, prismatic tincture, is absolutely massive, right? I think it's around a 100% damage increase or something stupid like that. Just to penetrate 29% of elemental resistance is absolutely bonkers. And then together with Feed the Fury, we managed to keep our mana up pretty consistently and get up to 30 mana burn stacks, no problem. So yeah, definitely yeah, a huge thing to have, and I would be surprised if they don't nerf it next league, to be honest. And then lastly, the Onslaught flasks, so more movement speed, more attack speed, and also curse immunity, which is, I would say, very useful when you are running tier 17 maps, as you do get cursed quite often. As for the skills, cost when stunned, Sigil of Power, so we are 1 HP, right, so we get stunned quite often. We do mitigate this by Soul of the Brine King. I would say this is the only mandatory Pantheon. The other one you can just choose whatever you want. I went up for some extra physical damage reduction, just for that extra bit of tankiness, why not? But yeah, automatically dropping Sigil of Power every now and then, just very nice. Don't want to manually drop that. I like fewer buttons is better for me. Precision, just level 1 for the Watcher's Eye. Then our inspiration support with our 3 curses that we cast by focusing. We have our Sniper's Mark on hit support, that's the 4th cursed. Then we have Frostblink to get around. Then the Molten Shell cast when I'm mistaken, both at max level. Reason being that we have a hit pool of 14.8k, right? So needing to take 3200 damage before Molten Shell kicks in is more than fine. Actually preferred, I would say, because I only wanted to trigger at really big hits. Then we have faster attack supports together with Whirling Blades. So yeah, just to get a bit more mobility in, not needed to be honest, but I just think it feels nice, to be honest. Only downside is we can run elemental reflect maps, but if we do get one, we need to turn off Whirling Blades, because as you can see, it can roll up to 100,000 lightning damage, which is a bit too much for us. Physical reflect we can run just fine. Physical damage is not enough to kill us. Yeah, then the main skill, Lightning Strike, 2120, Val Lightning Strike, right? Very important to get a Val variant, right? Because of the Val damage is just very good for single target. Definitely don't want to miss out on that. Together with multi-strike, probably could have spent that 350 divine on the boots better on Awakened multi-strike, but it is what it is. But regular multi-strike, perfectly fine. Volatility, because we are mainly lightning damage, and lightning damage is a very high and a very low, so volatility is very effective on getting more damage out of that. Then we have Awakened Wet, which also makes it so that we cannot take reflect elemental damage, so we can run any reflect maps, and energy leech support, since we are always leeching as a trickster. Lastly, damage of full life support. Yeah, before you have Nimis, you would run returning projectile support, but post Nimis, you just go for damage of full life support. Since we are 1 HP, we are always on full life. And then lastly, the auras. So we have haste for more attack speed and movement speed, grace for more tankiness, so more evasion that then gets turned into armor. Yeah, currently we are on 80,000 armor. You can run without this. If I turn off my grace, you can see still 47,000, so still a respectable amount of armor. and then you could run Wrath and a Lightning Pen Watcher's Eye, but I just wanted to make this build as tanky as possible, so I just opted for Grace. Then a Lighten, level 3, very cheap, right? Just cross at level 3, just enough to squeeze everything in. I could probably even do without by now. And then Discipline to get that extra energy shield and energy shield recharge rate. Yeah, that's it for the auras and skills. I think that's all in terms of gear and passive points. So let's run a quick map. Another very nice thing about this build is that I can use only one regex to confirm that this is a map I can run. Let's see what we have here. Monster Life, avoid elemental ailments, reflect physical and elemental. Let's reroll that. I can run it, but then I would have to turn on Whirling Blades, and I want this to be a bit of a fast map, right? There we go. So physical damage reduction, elemental resistances, always hits ignite, suppress spell damage, meteor when Flask, but we're using Mage Blood, and less area of effect. Sure, perfectly fine, right? Yeah, we are running a Scarab farming tree, so that means we are running a full top hat, increase effect here, so just maximum increase effect. So the tier 17 is going to be as juicy as possible. Actually, let me just also quickly grab a Delirium orb while we're at it. Yeah, usually I would of course run these with Scarabs, but yeah, right now I just want to showcase the build quickly. Not really doing this for profit as we speak. Yeah, so the premise of the build is pretty simple. You run around, you dash around, you press some W's, and well, that's about it, right? And very much one button gameplay. It's very comfortable. Like as you can see, you can barely see my health bar move. It's super comfortable. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I died, to be honest. So aside from these corpse explosions, that will be like one of the few things in tier 17 that skill so hard that it actually scares me a bit. Let's see. I think this is. Here, let's see. You saw a chunk a tiny bit, but with many corpse explosions, I would sometimes get to a point where I would be slightly uncomfortable. Yeah, good thing is that we can take all altars, so we just take whatever, don't look, just take it, and it will be fine. There we go. Extra basic currency discard, sure, and also things like this, right? It doesn't do damage. Same with the bosses, same with everything. Stuff doesn't do damage anymore. It's very nice. I run quite a few feared invitation or feared Valdos maps as well. No problem whatsoever. The only downside I would say is that the Slayer variant has some better single target damage. But if you see here, if I drop my curses and my potion and my focus and everything, then the boss will go down more than fast enough. Just stand here, tank some stuff, right? So yeah, of course we are running a 95% monster elemental resistance map, which is definitely not that great for our damage. But just the fact that we can stand here, have a good time, right? Yeah, that's what I really like about this build. It's just being tanky enough for basically anything. Being able to do all Ubers, tank everything, right? Tank Shaper Slams, whatever. Yeah, it's been great. If that's something you want to see, I can make a separate video, like exploring all the Ubers and stuff, and yeah, tanking some mechanics, I would say. Who knows, maybe it's a very nice one. So a quick peek. Icicle Mines, never mind. Alright, yeah, so that's it about the build. If you made it this far, thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, feedbacks or suggestions, please do leave them in the comments below. And if not, I wish you all a very nice day. Bye bye.